The UPAFTER is currently working on producing their third album by March 2015. On this journey, many things have happened. Remember this guy? Well, guess what? He got married. Alright, I know it's probably something that you already knew, but I bet you didn't know that he moved to India. The band had a whole farewell concert for him and everything. I mean everything. It was an amazing night. So now, what was the band to do? I mean, Jeff Johnson, the keyboardist and guitarist of the band, was still cranking out song after song.
To me, the way I write songs is I just write whenever I'm inspired by something. If I have like a strong emotion towards something, I try to make a song out of it. I just had a bunch of stuff in my head and I just wrote songs about them. And so it wasn't like I went through a period where I was intentionally trying to write a lot of songs. It just happened to, songs just came out of that period. I was just inspired by stuff.
So the band continued to practice and practice and practice, with just one little problem.
We have no lead singer.
That was probably the toughest thing that we've had to do as a band.
It was frustrating because we had the songs and in our heads we know like what it's supposed to sound like, but at the same time there's no one singing the song, so after a while you kind of wonder if you're supposed to be in the band anymore, if the band's supposed to quit. Maybe this is the end of the road.
It was as if there was a lead singer that was coming.
Something just kept pushing us.
It was during that time that one of my mentors was telling me how important it is just to show up, and that kind of drove me to continue to keep going.
Remember that RV they had? Since they had nowhere else to practice with live drums, they set up a rehearsal space in the RV.
There was nowhere else that we could practice, especially here in New York. Like, all the houses are really close together. It's hard to find a place where you could play the drums really loud and no one's gonna call the cops.
The RV was also like a hit or miss because that generator was super old and the heat was like in and out. So every time when we say we're gonna go practice, it's always like you just cross your fingers, hope that things actually work.
Until the polar vortex came and the heater stopped working.
That thing was cold, dude.
It was way too cold. Like, we couldn't play chords properly because, your fingers are frozen. And it was even hard like pronouncing words because your mouth is frozen.
You're wearing a half-sleeve shirt with a polar bear on your head.
It's good.
What's the plan there, Ted?
It's all about keeping your head warm and your hands and your feet.
Neck. Oh, and your neck. I got your neck. And your neck is...
And your extremities.
What?
So it was cool, and then it was an experience we talked about and never experienced again.
Eventually, they settled in Jeff's room, set up their band gear, and continued their practice sessions as best they could.
It felt good to be just like comfortable when you practice.
That felt like a blooming flower out of the cold.
Because before we were like all bundled up, we looked like we were about to go hunt some seals or something. I don't know. Practicing in the room was good. It made us focus on the song melody and the song, like the foundation of the song, as opposed to letting the drums just like drive the song.
But on the flip side, I'm now practicing and playing on a drum machine. I've never played on a drum machine in my life, so this is a complete readjustment between an actual drum set and having 4 squares that you're hitting now.
With a drum machine, it was kind of blah, like you don't really get the little details of the drum set.
I mean, in my head, I was just kind of reassuring myself that, one day we'll have a drum set, but at least we could use this as just our preliminary foundation for the beat.
But it became somewhat clear to them during the whole process that they wouldn't fare well in this state for too long. There's only so much that drums, bass, and guitar can do for a song. The solution became obvious: auditions.
The idea of auditions was very uncomfortable.
I didn't know what we were going to do as far as critiquing them. I don't know how many people would show up.
For me, the main thing is to find somebody that follows our vision, not necessarily somebody that's awesome at singing or, playing the guitar or something, but just somebody that's fully committed and he's a little crazy and reckless like us. To be in this band, you can't just be a great musician or a great singer. There has to be a side of you that follows God's calling even when it doesn't make sense. Sometimes that can come off as crazy and childish and reckless, but we're just doing what we're told.
On March 2nd, anyway, we'll be having auditions, and the whole goal is playing electric positions.
After a good turnout for the positions of vocal and electric guitarist, one emerged among them.
Sitting there, I was a little nervous, but not too nervous because the guys were friendly faces. I knew the guys.
Brian Joy auditioned for the part of the electric guitarist. You should have heard him. His guitar rendition to one of the band's originals from their last album was so incredibly unique.
I was thinking, this guy is really passionate about playing electric guitar.
Man, that guy was on point. And more than anything, I noticed his heart for what he was doing there, and he put a lot of thought into what he did. So that spoke to me louder than anything he played that day.
We're training jazz, that's my background. Yeah. Growing up, I didn't have something to be excited about or something that I did specifically to me like the people around me did. But when I turned around 10 years old, I got music. And I developed in music, and I excelled in it, and I just really loved music, being able to express myself through sound and all these things. One of my close friends told me that your life should kind of reflect where your faith and your passions in life kind of marry. Seeing what the band was doing, from the sidelines really, I mean, I knew Sean since I was a little boy, but seeing where they started from, knowing Sean as being the dude who just sat in his room and played trumpet, and like he didn't, he just wasn't much of a rock star to where he is now, and just like see how far the band is, how faithful the band was and how faithful God was to them, it kind of made sense for me. I knew that's where I wanted to be, in the sense of I wanted to use my passion of playing music, playing live, performing, writing music, to further the kingdom of God, to create something beautiful, to create community, to inspire people. And yeah, that's why I tried out for the band. I realized that was my best platform, that was my best opportunity that I've been blessed with so far.
Now, with a fourth member on the team, they continued to practice and define roles and make adjustments as needed. It wasn't long before they came to a new hurdle, the problem of how to contain the volume of live drums within Jeff's room.
I don't know, I think really late at night we come up with crazy ideas.
For those of you who don't know, Burley's kind of crazy.
And I think my brother came up with the idea, why don't we build a room inside a room?
And he has wild ideas.
I thought it was a great idea because, I mean, I was reading up on it for a while.
We were all like, yeah, right, that's just the stupidest thing we've ever heard.
Yeah, I was excited to just do it, even if it fails. I'm more of a let's try this and see how much we get yelled at.
We just started like sketching it out, doing like a CAD drawing on it and all that kind of stuff, and just seeing what this would practically look like.
It took several days of planning, cutting, insulating, and layering. When all the sawdust had settled, and there was a lot.
I think I got healed of my allergies from like just exposure. Don't try that at home, kids.
It seemed to be a successful containment unit to finally cage Burley the Bull Johnson.
It's definitely helping to a point where we could still practice even up to like 9 o'clock at night without bothering our neighbors, who was only about 15-20 feet away from our house.
I mean, the drum room works really well. The problem is it's in my room, so like to get to anything in my room, I have to go past a large like wooden, ugly crate. You gotta make sacrifices.
2 great victories on this road to the band's goals of recording an album in just a few months' time. They had a new lead guitarist in Brian and a new drum cage that would allow them to practice consistently. But the questions on each of their minds lingered on.
Who's gonna be the next lead singer?
It was still no light at the end of the tunnel.
Still kind of confused as to what the end goal is.
Is trial period over yet?
Can they manage to pull everything together to get an album going in the next few months? Will Brian fit into the band?
I'd like to think I'm fitting in well.
Keep it locked here to find out on UA, Next Chapter, the album journey.